that we may encounter in the future, so we need to be prepared for those. So let me start. Okay, hold on. My agenda was not that short. It was not that short. Anyway, let me just tell you. The first few slides I was going to talk about what Ephesoft does, what we are here for. When I did this presentation for MacWilliams, there were people who had no idea what Ephesoft is. Do you know? Would you like me to?
No, I'm good.
You're good. Okay. So this was it. We classify documents, give samples, and then everything's classified and extracted. So this is similar to what we have right now. So if I come here, we have two servers, this one and this one. And one of the servers hosts the database and the network share. The reason we have a database is because two servers need to share the workload. When a batch comes in, we have hundreds of batches coming in every day. So these two servers decide between each of them, say, okay, what's the next batch I'm going to need to process, and that information is stored in a database, and where the files are, and that's in the network share. So both servers have access to the database and the share. So one of the servers right now is designated to host these. The other server is just processing the workload, just like this one also does. Just OCR classification, they both do those as well. And for users, we gave them access to one of the servers. These servers are identical to each other, so it doesn't really matter to us whether the users connect to that server or that server. They can look at the same batches, same jobs, because they both share the network share and the database. So it's like a mirror.
Is that the two URLs we have?
That's
then,
right.
One to each?
The URL is the address you type it to your address bar on your browser.
And then like when we had trouble the other day, Armando asked us to use the other URL. That means we just went to the other server instead.
Correct.
Should we be using like half our operators using one and the other to load balance? Would that help at all, or is that a different?
I think there are better ways to handle this. So let me show you what the perfect scenario is, and then you'll know. Normally, the user interface, to answer your question directly, user interface is very light. So when you're not making the server busy because of the users are there, it's because this server at that moment in time is so busy processing batches, just didn't have the resources to get back to the users on time.
Okay.
So it would be the same thing here, because it may switch based on jobs that the servers are processing. But if this is busy, that means it's probably going to be busy in the next 30 minutes or half an hour also. So
it did work as an immediate fix, a short-term solution,
yes.
But okay.
Yeah, it would. But in this case, everything is fine. As you said, we're working. Sometimes there's a high volume and servers get slow. But there are other problems here. The business, the Plaza Mortgage business, depends on this system now, because all these branches are sending documents, and then if this server is down for an hour, business gets affected. What if the hard drive on this server that is hosting the database and network fries? What are we going to do? Then we need to order that hard drive. It's going to come in the next day, and then we're all going to scramble and install the software, soft operating system, Ephesoft server configuration again. It will last 2 days, let's say. We can't even sustain our business if the system goes down for half an hour. What are we going to do if it goes down for 2 days? We'll be in big trouble. So we need to design the system architecture so that we don't have any single point of failures. Today, if this server goes down, then we're fine. We just have the users connect to this one. So everything is fine. Everything will be backed up a little bit. Users will process, but if this server goes down, which is hosting the database and network share, we're in trouble. So we need to prevent all these things. So we have a design. Thank you. We have a design that we did for a customer. This is like a perfect system.
And,
So-
and is that customer doing the same type of volume that we're doing?
Not really. This customer is doing 450 million pages a year. You're doing about maybe 1/10 of that. So these guys are. This is our biggest customer.
Okay, good. Alright, good to know.
Yeah. So what we did on that on this system, and by the way, this system is also highly secure. So they have the system in a database data center somewhere in Washington D.C. The users are in Dallas and on the other side of the country, and this is mortgage processing. So they had to. We had to design a system that is very highly secure, and they even hired a third-party security company to see if they can crack from outside, and they couldn't because of all the firewalls between each regions. So here's how it works. First, the share. You put a network share on its own devices that it's highly available. So if one hard drive fails, it knows that it can still survive. You probably know this RAID configurations and clustered NAS systems.
Yeah.
Or if you have a
It's pretty much what we
SAN.
use for the Y drive and stuff today.
So the goal is that you don't have any single point of failure. You don't have one computer hosting the drives, hard drives, and it's also high performance because Ephesoft reads and writes a lot of small files, like TIFF files, XML files. So if we want to get good performance out of Ephesoft servers, in this case we have only 2 servers here. It's like you do, but they have more actually. I didn't draw all of them. But Ephesoft servers are processing the files, and not the files are being processed here. So it's best to have this one fast drives, hard drives. And the database is also clustered. So the database is served by servers outside of Ephesoft. Mostly, I don't know you do, but mostly companies have SQL Server clusters or SQL Store.
We don't really cluster anything, but
Okay, maybe you do VMs or whatever you do, but database is always available to us. When we say which batch is available for processing, the database servers tell us, and if one of the database servers go down, the other one picks up. So Ephesoft is not affected if the database systems go down. And here the Ephesoft. So Ephesoft servers, you can put as many as you want. And the key is you have to have at least 2, because if one goes down, the business needs to survive. The main idea is that you cannot have a single point of failure in this case. So all the servers are asking the database, okay, what's my next job? And then once they learn, they go to the file share and then start processing the TIFF files or PDF files, whatever. And then they share the load. So now let's talk about the users. You probably know if when you go to Facebook.com or Google.com, you don't specifically type servers. They have hundreds of servers there, right? So all the users, like we all know Facebook.com. We don't know anything else. And that's what we have here. You tell the users to log on to only one URL. And these web servers are load balanced. And they know that there are one, 2 or more servers here. They decide which server to go to. So they crisscross, they load balance it between the servers. So you don't have to call in the middle of the day, okay, all the users switch the servers, switch URLs. Make sense? So these are web servers. There's no Ephesoft software on those. So only Ephesoft software is here. And these are the licenses you get. Everything else is, what your infrastructure.
yeah.
And at Iron Mountain, oops.
Oops.
They host their database. We have no knowledge of what they're using behind the scenes. They host their own share. These servers they want to install them on Linux systems. We don't care.
Yeah.
So all we care is Ephesoft servers, and they put firewalls in between all so that it's highly secure. But that's not your concern here.
Yeah.
And when Ike says fast drives, we prefer solid state drives. And, you know, a lot of network guys fight us on that because they don't want solid state drives. But in today's world, they shouldn't fight us because all we're doing is reading and writing.
Yeah, if you're doing a lot of reading and writing,
we love selling you Ephesoft licenses, but if you want to ultimately buy less, use solid state drives.
So if the hard drives are fast, then Ephesoft will be fast because we will read and write fast. So one extra level here is that let's say you have 4 Ephesoft servers. You can have 4 Ephesoft servers today because you have 4 licenses. And what you can do is you can actually dedicate 1 or 2 servers only to the users if you wanted to. So users will never ever get affected from the load. And these servers here will process, you can even make them 100% utilized. It's the CPUs. But users will only talk to these guys, and then you can just, have them operate as much as you want. So this is the perfect system. Now we need to find your perfect system. Hopefully we can use this as a template, scale back, but the most important thing is to make sure when you go to the next level of your business, we need to eliminate the single point of failures. So that Ephesoft is not going to be down because of a hard drive crash in summer or a memory fried on one of the computers. We can't have Ephesoft down for
in that app tier. It's fine to virtualize it as you have, but if you want to have better speed, we would need to have it on bare metal. Is that true?
Well, if you want to use virtual machine, I say it needs to be configured properly. We had customers putting these computers on virtual machine, and they said, okay, we're going to have time slice between the CPUs, and the performance was horrible because we're not actually getting the actual CPU. We're just getting 1/3 or 1/4 of the CPU power on it. And on that customer, when they move to hard physical computers, and they get like 4 times faster processing. But we went to another customer. Those guys were virtual machine whiz. They knew what they were doing. We put it on the virtual machines. The performance was no difference. So there are some tricks in the virtual machine world. I don't know. I'm not the expert.
If you just when you create the virtual machine, as long as you dedicate the resources to that instance, it's the same thing as having a computer on the shelf.
If you can do that, some people don't know how to.
Yeah, our entire environment, all of our Citrix servers, SQL servers, all that, they're all virtual. We don't split resources with anything. We say we're giving you 8 cores. You're getting 8 cores and no one else touches them. So,
all right.
But we're finding that some IT shops are better at virtualizing than others.
No, and I think we use it every day, and I think we're pretty good with how we've got them set up.
If you're using application like Exchange or web server, those machines are not CPU intensive. So the other customers that don't know how to configure the virtual machines don't feel any difference when they install those applications. But we are very CPU intensive. We need to take that TIFF file and OCR it. We use the CPU a lot. So if the CPU is not completely dedicated to the VM, we feel it very badly.
Yeah,
performance goes down.
I mean, like with Citrix is very memory and CPU intensive, and all of our Citrix servers are virtual.
Okay.
So for us, I would think splitting off the data store onto a high performance NAS would be beneficial. And it's going for the recommendation, having a separate database. That one doesn't seem to cause a problem for me. I'd want to know the specs for it, but you know, how many processors, how much memory.
We use database very light, so even if
Okay.
you have a small system with like 4 gig memory,
Okay, so it doesn't have to be anything super beefy.
not at all. Is more than enough. But the only thing is, if you can make it separated from the Ephesoft,
Yeah, no,
and,
that's what
and make it clustered, so we don't have any single point of failure.
I would prefer to have the Ephesoft servers only doing their job,
Yeah.
not doing anything
Exactly.
else. That to me is the best use for them, and we do that in other applications where we have our data track application, which we actually have
Yes.
all of the components is split across 6 servers. We have data track and then the database. We have DocuTrack and then the database, and then we have our web server. You know,
This is exactly.
it's completely separated, and it's just exactly what you say. You get better performance when the server can focus on its job and not try and do other things.
Yeah.
It's gonna run better.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that Ephesoft ran with the database, and so that one. I mean, it's not like a eureka that's going to make everything better, but it makes sense splitting it off
Yeah.
off by itself. Same with the NAS.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of files coming in and out, you know, save the space on the server itself, put it on the NAS. Like,
A lot of files.
Yeah.
Like when you have a say a 500 page loan, that's 500 TIFF files
Mhm.
that meet the OCR. We create XML files for every TIFF file. We create HTML files for every TIFF file. Then we create the PNG file. So for that 500 pages, we create 250,
Yeah.
2,500 images, and we all need to read and write for that one batch. And you guys have 100 batches
Yeah.
every hour.
And
So-
DocuTrack works the same way too. We have a storage device we don't have it network storage because it's only one server, but it connects to it and it does all of its work there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking at this setup, the only one that I would question for us is the web tier,
Yeah, sure.
since we don't have, we have everyone connecting, all of our customers connecting through DocuTrack, and then that connects to this. So the web tier is really only for the batch management system, which is your group, and
So
easy
we
to
have 10
maintain.
people on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can have only one, you know, you don't even need these probably.
Yeah,
You can
I
just
don't-
directly connect to one of the guys.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing today.
Mhm.
The only thing is, this is for you. I would probably put a DNS record, and then set this one as a secondary IP address. So
Okay.
if this server goes down, the users will be automatically routed to the second server, but they won't know anything about it.
So it's kind of like how you're in the office and you connect to launch.plazahomemortgage.com. That doesn't work anywhere outside of our office because our computers go out to the internet and say, where's launch.plazahomemortgage? And it says, oh, that's this machine over on Pointivity. It's not out on the internet. So the same type of thing, we would create Ephesoft.plazahomemortgage.com and it would look, or DocuSource or whatever you want to call it, and it would look at Ephesoft 1, and then if that one was down, it would say, okay, well that's not working, so let's try Ephesoft 2. So it would automatically redirect them. Now, in the case of where it's like, oh, don't use number 1 right now, then you'd have to manually change it. But if it was down completely, then it would load balance that way.
Yeah. So in your case, then if we eliminate this, then you end up with this. So we need to separate out the database somehow. We can put on a virtual machine with 4 gig RAM, and then if we can get a virtual machine or anything else, you have a high performance one. Whether it's just a high performance NAS or a computer with
You'll probably just
SSD.
do it NAS, yeah.
Yeah.
How much space?
So that's a good question. The way I calculate space is this. Let's find out how many batches you process a day. Let's say, I'm just going to make up a number, 1,000 batches a day. And what's the average page per batch? Let's say 200, right? So that's 200,000 TIFF files. We generate 5 files for each. So times 5 is
So you're at 1 million now?
a million.
Yep.
And let's say, are we doing here full color? Yes, we are. So each file, let's say, is 800 kilobyte. We calculate that. That's the amount of space we should have for a day.
Okay.
that's probably going to come to 2 gigabytes. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
No, that's nothing. Yeah.
that's nothing.
Yeah.
But what if the data track is down, or there's just more work
And
that
there's a
day?
backup. Yeah.
Let's say plan something for a month to be safe. That's what I do. It's just my best practice. 2 gigabytes times 30 is 60 gigabytes. So buy a 28 gig hard drive with SSD.
So you don't even need a NAS. You really could just use a USB SSD device.
The only thing is I would say that you should have this configuration. So if that
Oh, the RAID
Computer.
configuration. Yeah, you're right.
So
I mean, a 60 gigabyte NAS type system with a RAID 5 array isn't going to break the bank. I mean, 60 gigabytes is really these days nothing. It's ridiculous how cheap space is. Like DocuTrack has a 4 terabyte NAS.
Yeah.
And remember, we're just pushing them through,
Yeah.
and we're writing them and reading them, writing them,
Yeah,
double
you're not
them,
storing
far.
them.
we
And
don't
if you
store
had
it.
a fast drive with solid state, like your flash drives, that will
Yeah.
cause a lot of heartburn to go down. Because one
In
of
that storage tier, is that what
Yeah.
we're talking
Mhm.
Yes,
we
this
want to
is-
have a solid state drive in there, in that storage
if
tier.
possible. I mean, I have some recommendations that other customer used. Sometimes they buy a NAS system with an SSD in the front for caching purposes.
Mhm.
They have all kinds of NAS devices these days. But if you want recommendations, I have a few
Okay.
that I can suggest.
Yeah, but like I said, at 60 gigs, I mean, we probably even go more than that just because
You can.
you can, and you're talking incremental cost.
I calculate that in my head, so let's put everything
Yeah, I
down.
would-
Yeah,
Calculate accurately.
Yeah.
I don't want you to come back tomorrow.
I did 60 gigs, yeah. No, I get you, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do 600 gigs and get a NAS device and
Less than
and do that.
$1,000 probably.
Yeah.
Those hard drives. I mean, for
Yeah.
600.
Yeah, you still you're paying more for the configuration and all that than you are at the actual drive. So
So obviously eliminating that single point of failure is the most important piece. It sounds like we're also
I would
getting
say so.
performance
Yep.
improvement as well.
Mhm, absolutely.
so the only thing is, okay, if we want to do that, the complete single point of failure, we really need to get the 2 database servers, which they're pretty light, and it looks like, I mean, you can run it off of MySQL, so there's really no licensing issues.
Mhm.
And you can virtualize it, so I mean, for us, that's a couple $100 a month. It's not a big deal. So for us, I would think the perfect solution would be app tier down,
Right.
And are we
without
using,
the firewalls in between.
using MySQL here?
I can't remember.
Are we using
either
MySQL?
I
MySQL
don't-
or SQL Server?
Yeah, I
know.
don't remember having to get a license for SQL for it, so we might just be using MySQL.
Okay.
And see, the advantage of using this solid state drive and this architecture is if the OCR processing takes up all the resources, it's potential that it can rob from the SQL database, the SQL, and then you get a corrupt SQL database, and then your system goes down. So there's all kinds of reasons to go to this architecture,
Mhm.
and that's happened here.
What kind of effort is that? I'm not very smart.
No, it's just I always say that you're smart. It's just a matter of going to Pointivity and saying this is what we need, and they quote it and we do it. I mean, I would
Does it
probably-
involve like Armando configuring things for us, or is it all hardware stuff that you do?
I'm sure at the beginning we would just supply, okay, here's our NAS, here's your share to get to it, here's our database cluster connected.
It is simple, but there's some effort. So, because the database is on the server right now, so this computer is also connecting to here. But when we move the database here, we're going to tell both of these guys to connect here. That's less than half an hour job.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice if you could flush everything out of the system, which you can't, so that nothing's in there when we do all these movings. That was the issue we had when we re-architected this. We had to do it in off hours and
Yeah.
Yeah, and also database. So when we move to file share, then we need to configure both systems to use that. So I think when we moved something like this, it took like 3.5 hours at another customer. So it is some effort, but
Yeah.
it's not like
We could-
weeks.
I mean, we could get to a point now where there's nothing in the queue and we can just shut it down.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
We're 10 operators.
Okay.
And then we would just turn off our
And,
loan,
and
our
they
pulse.
just bulk up in the.
We could shut them down to the front and just say no more uploads for 3 hours or whatever.
Yes.
And then I could do that in Pulse. Can we do this when we're still receiving docs?
Well,
Or do I?
We receive them through the DocuTrack server, and I think it copies it right over. What I would guess we would do is set up the NAS first, and maybe change it to where, you could do it in stages where you set up the NAS and you have that ready to go. You make a change to the upload page to where the upload page would just start dumping the files to the NAS, but nothing. But the system's not
Don't
looking
pick up.
at.
We can tell the FSL not to pick up
Yeah.
those. That's very easy.
Yeah, so Ephesoft doesn't know to pick them up. They're looking for them in that old file, but nothing's showing up in there. Meanwhile, our brokers are uploading them. It's just saving them over here for now.
Oh, you just kind of switch that.
Yeah. And then you change everything else, and then you tell the server, say, don't look here for the files, look over here. And then it goes, hey, look, there's 1,000 files here for us to grab.
Okay.
And then they start grabbing them.
Yeah.
Now I think they have a test license here too.
Yeah, which we haven't done anything with.
So if you haven't done anything with that test license, this would be a good purpose for. You could even use that as an interim.
Yes, but everything's set up already.
Yeah.
We just need to change the
Well,
configuration.
they do need to incorporate the test license in an appropriate way so they can get value out of it because they're constantly making changes.
So that's one of my procedures. Next slide, actually, because let's go while we're on it. The best practice is when you have a new document type or you have a new index field that you want to extract. I don't think you're doing that, or any sample. It's best to put that into the test system, see if it works, even though it's such a simple thing, and then do the same change in the production environment. Things happen, and if the Ephesoft system is business critical system, you don't want it to break. So you don't want one guy come there and then just delete the document type that's necessary down the line and then breaks the entire system. So it's a good practice to have the test system installed. Just do the test there and make your changes, and then if everything is okay, then go do it in the
But
production.
now with the test system, we don't necessarily do the same redundancy or separation of components. You can have a test server that has the drive, the database, and everything on it on one, because performance doesn't matter there. So we have one extra server. It just mimics our configuration
Yes.
of Ephesoft. You make the change on that. So okay, that's good. Then you make the change on live.
And I want
Yeah.
sorry.
So,
And I'd like to have or somebody create the same I want them to mirror.
Mirror
right?
it,
We'd
so
have
the
the
test
same
is like
upload
the-
page.
Yeah. Now we are moving to many Ephesoft resellers like us are moving to a new model, which these guys were kind enough to teach us, and that we want to impart the knowledge to Tina and your crew. So some of our service level agreements going forward, we'd like to read to say when you have Armando make changes or design, we'd like to work in the test environment, and then Tina we would document what we did, and then Tina would move the changes from the test environment to the production environment. That way you know exactly what's going on all the time versus us fiddling in the production environment.
See, that sounds a little more tech.
That'd be more come my way or my
That'd be
team's
your-
Or your
Yeah.
team, yeah. But instead of just having it, then you don't get these calls, something's changed, and you don't know what's changed because just some Armando razzed in and did a change.
Yeah.
So our service level agreements going forward are going to read that way.
Now that's not too different than how we do it now. Most of the time, Armando will have me go in and at least make configuration
Good.
changes on the live, and so yeah, that's kind of how we're doing it already.
Good.
Except we'll do a test first, then live.
Yeah.
Now we're going
Yeah.
live.
Yeah, we're just gonna
We're
try this
working-
one out.
Yeah,
We're
try it.
working
work,
without
we'll
a
put the
net.
old one back
We're
on.
working without a net.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And also have a schedule to do it. I've seen customers do small changes in the middle of the day, something broke, and all the 10 users starts complaining what happened to Ephesoft. So it's better to schedule these changes, put on a change schedule. So maybe we'll do them on Friday afternoon after 4 o'clock or so, you know, or every 2 weeks. So if something goes wrong, maybe Friday, we have kind of a few hours to fix it up, or we have weekends. And let's not do it on Monday at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
You know.
That's pretty standard for us
Yeah.
to do it over the weekend.
Okay. Good.
Get
And
emailed
then-
at by my wife.
And then the maintenance plan.
Yeah.
So
What'd she do?
it's important to look at every time, once in a while, to the system and make sure we're operating at full power. You know, the simple thing, for example, is the temporary folder that we use all the time. If it's full, if it's getting slow, if it needs a defrag or anything like that to speed it up. And the same things are also necessary sometimes for database.
Just the re-indexing and all that.
Exactly, re-indexing, and we can give you some procedures. Actually, they're all available on our website and wiki. But you can run those on some intervals. Maybe it's 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, whatever you choose. But we need to have some maintenance plan so that system is operating always at the highest level. If the system is getting slow after a year, you know, users will start telling you. We need to be proactive and then do it before they start feeling the maintenance is up. So I think that's it. So we have advanced reporting now. Many people use it. I just want to mention it here. In the advanced reporting, we put things like, okay, Ephesoft is classifying these documents. If Ephesoft can't figure out, we're asking the users, and the users are correcting them, and then that's how it goes, right? How can you find out, let's say, if all the truth and landing are coming red for the users? These reports will help you find those document types, and then you can go back and say, okay, I need to put more samples for my truth and landing documents, and then fix those so that those documents stop coming to users now. It'll never go away. We will always have something because you're receiving mortgage files from, 100 million companies out there. But we can find the major problems and reduce those so that you can do your job with less users, or you can make the users more efficient. So we have some reporting to help you find those. And we have reporting for classification and also extraction. You don't use extraction right now, but if we were to extract, let's say, the loan number or the amount from the HUD ones, and if the user is correcting always the seller, borrowers, 1008 line, I'm sure you guys know this, we can find out, okay, this is the field that we need to make it better, to extract better.
Do we have access to that reporting now, or do we need to?
That's another license. That's actually a new product that they've acquired and built and integrated. What I think is interesting about the reporting tool, it allows somebody like Tina to constantly tune the product. And this is something that is like a piano that you can tune over the years to the point. We're hoping 2 years from now you're talking about not doing a lot of data entry into your LOS, because you could extract the appraisal values out of an appraisal. You could extract data from documents and feed it to your LOS. So a lot of the keying that you're doing now isn't even there. But what the reporting tool does is helps us determine where the system needs help, versus now it's sort of guesswork. So yeah, that's a license that's based on how many servers you're running.
It's a new product that we came up with separately. People always ask me what kind of NAS device they should use. You probably know this already. I can give you these links, but the best one out there is NetApp. It's a company that gives really fast hard drives, and they're very expensive too, though. So I say
That's how it works.
this is a inexpensive one, still very good, but basically, runner, like they work harder because they're the second.
Yeah.
They have many companies like this, but I just give these two examples. You probably know this already. And is there anything else? No, that's it.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it warrants a conversation with Pointivity about, doing the database cluster. And that one actually, the database cluster is really more up to us how, if there is a problem with the database server, one of the benefits of the virtual machines is you have a copy of the virtual machine. Issue with that instance, you take that copy, you put it on a new virtual base, boom, new server up, down for 30 minutes. So it's really at this point a cost versus risk issue of what's a better backup for us. I mean, honestly, we really don't run anything in duplicate right now. DataTrack's not, DocuTrack's not, nothing. We don't have two versions of anything but really Ephesoft. And so it's just that level of importance.
The difference is, you're correct. So difference is if you put the database into a single server and put it virtualized, so you always have a backup, so if something happens you can just bring it up. In that case, you're fine. It's a very inexpensive method.
Mm-hmm.
The only downside is if the server goes down for some reason, you're going to work maybe 30 minutes to bring up from the backup. But the Ephesoft jobs that are in the system will have to be resubmitted, or someone needs to go delete them and then resubmit them because we lost track of what happened in the past 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Unlike DataTrack, if it goes down, you bring it back up and you're right at the state where you left it, or
Because
it's just a look and see type application. This is more like a river, and when the dam dams up, the river backs up quickly.
So you're saying like it goes down, it's working on batch, and again, easy for numbers, batch number 1. So batch number 1, it's working on. The database just says, hey, I had batch 1. And Ephesoft's working on it, it gets done, it says, okay, I'm done, and it goes to hit the database. Database isn't there anymore. So it can't tell that batch is when it's done. So we bring it back up, database says, okay, batch 1's ready to be picked up. Ephesoft's like, well, I already did it.
Well,
And they've already submitted it over, so...
That's one scenario.
Mhm.
Second scenario is, when did you back up the database? If you back up the database last night, we have the batches
Everything for
from
the
last
day.
night.
Gotcha,
So
yeah.
when the server comes up, you'll see, okay, I have a batch, 201, but all the files for 201 are already gone from here last night. They were processed. So now you're in a state where database is in a different state, files are in a different state.
Yeah.
So
We generally do backups every 2 hours.
We ran into that, I think, didn't we, a few weeks ago?
Yeah, and it's a mess. It's like
We had to-
matching socks.
we were redoing the same batches over and over.
Yeah, so when you have a clustered system like this, then if the server goes down, you didn't lose your database.
Mhm.
You have a week or a month to replace the server. Nothing is get lost. Everything is always on time. We didn't lose anything from the single point of failure.
Yeah. So
But
it's that...
it's expensive.
Yeah, it's just the question of what is it worth to us? Is it worth the extra expense every month to have the two of them clustered, or are we okay with a 2-hour period of having to redo batches? And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just more of a
Some of those phone calls you've phoned me on have felt more painful than $200 or $300. If that, I mean, each phone call I would put way above that.
And also, maybe you will never have a hard drive crash. So if you go with the inexpensive method of having one VM, maybe you'll never have a problem, right? So this is like an insurance
Yeah.
policy. But if it goes down tomorrow, are you going to be okay with going down for 2 days?
Right.
or for 2 hours
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, we definitely need to go to this.
yeah, no, and yeah, like I said, it's just the only thing that I'm questioning right now is do we need the 2 database servers? And if the answer is yes, then it's yes. But I agree that this is the best method for it. If we're going to see pickup, and I agree with the whole redundancy in the backup. We've already got the redundancy on the Ephesoft side. We'll have the redundancy on the data storage side. It's, it'll just be, do we need the redundancy on the SQL side? And if it's, like I said, if it's yes, then we do it that way.
I think playing into that, it might be 2 hours to fix, but I think right now, today, you need Armando to do it. And I can't always get Armando available
Yeah,
immediately. It's the other thing to kind of weigh into it, and I'm just being
No,
honest.
that's right. That's a
Yeah, and then
factor.
if he, as you said to me on the phone the other day, it isn't the problem that when we go down, it's the problem that it might be 6-7 hours before we get Armando to, and if it happens at 4 o'clock and we don't get back to you till noon the next day, it's that 6 hours of aggravation.
And then when we're back up, we're not up. We're
Yeah, you're behind.
behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the help desk right now today, we can't do any database. That always gets escalated when it comes to the database. So, we can look at that over time, but today we just can't support it from a help desk fashion.
And DocuSource always have Ephesoft backup. We're always there, like the second level support, always available. We'll always help, but there's, when you're down, you're down.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we'll,
Think about that. Good.
what's the time frame on something like that?
Month.
A month?
I'm also having to
I know.
get my second NAS for the DocuTrack, so I got that in process.
DocuTracks or DataTrack?
DocuTrack. Yeah, we have a 4 terabyte NAS connected to DocuTrack, and we started using it in April of 08 in a low scale. And I have about 800 gigs free on it. Right now, we're blowing through about 400 gigabytes in a month
Yeah.
of space. And so I've got 2 months to get a new device on there.
Yeah. And
And the bad thing is that I can't archive off of it. They don't have a clean way to archive stuff. Because everything is separated into 500 gigabyte drives. Because you get bigger than that and you start to see systems slow down because it's got to read like this giant drive and then backups are a bear and all that. So it's all split up. So if I have a loan, so right now the only way to archive in the system is to say archive loans that were in this date range from here to here. Okay, so I do that. Well, that could have files on drive D, E, and F. And so I can't just say, okay, archive all of these loans and get rid of the D drive. Now the D drive's free. I would have to archive like everything up through 2011 to get rid of stuff on D through G or something like that. It's
So we hope someday to have a different conversation with you about records retention, because we have tools in the repositories that we represent that hook to your LOS, whatever it may be, that can do document retention at the document level, and we store the images in the disk drive, so in a way that allows this. So suppose you have a loan and it funds and it sells, and the rule is 6 months, 6 years after it funds, we want to get rid of all the documents except the funding sheet and maybe the application. We can do that. So that is the kind of, and that would ultimately reduce your storage fees with your host.
It's a matter of where is this data stored, and then how is it done? Like with DocuTrack, like I said, we've got the funding date thing would work fine if I didn't have 12 different drives that I have files scattered across because of size. So that's fine. Okay, I can archive everything, but what does that free up for me in drive size? Do you have 4 terabytes of data on one drive? Because that to me would be pretty inefficient for backups and reading and writing data, because it has to read a 4 terabyte drive. So like I said, we have it chopped up because we get so many documents in. So it's just a matter of if I could go through and I could have more visibility as to what was on each drive, and I would prefer you set it up to where, I know this is kind of reaching for the stars, but everything on this loan is in the same store. But I know that you can't really do that because you don't know if 10 loans is going to take up 10 gigs
Yeah.
or if 5 loans are going to take up 10 gigs because of
Yeah.
whatever documentation is. So it's a hard problem to solve, but we can eventually get there once you get out far enough.
Well, there is a way to do
Can I
it.
jump on this a little
Yeah.
bit? The architecture behind the product is somewhat interesting because you can have different levels of storage. So you can say if the file's newer, put it on this really fast
Mhm.
NAS. And then as it gets older, you're going to have less hits on it, and you can start moving it to other media. And that happens without you knowing it, without the users knowing it. It just moves.
Yeah,
off
if there's
the
something that
NAS
said
to
move all the
this.
documents from these to this other larger drive that I have and take it off of this one,
Right.
that would be good to me, because then it would go take off the E and the F and the G drive, put it all on the Z drive, store it up nice and neat over here. Boom! Now I know where this loan is, and now I have more space on these, so I can start filling up those. And then I go, okay, now everything on the Z drive, if it's over 6 months old, I don't care. We're just going to archive it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
We know this migration that David talks about is really important for people that are paying for storage with
but we
hosts.
don't. We already own the storage.
Well, even when people just want to reduce their over long-term liability of holding documents too long, even because this architecture has been compared to Verpack and split stocks, and it is considered the way to go from a retiring of images over time perspective.
Yeah, that's what we're lacking right now. Is
Because what happened when we first got into this business 15, 20 years ago, you had 50 doc types per loan, let's just keep them. Hard drives are cheap. None of the science of archiving and retention was put into it. So as you look at replacement products for data tracks, we'd like to show you this repository concept. Another thing that Ephesoft does that I found out on the way down is it can make PDFs with bookmarks, which is kind of interesting. So a lot of your funding people want one big PDF loan and have a bookmark for every doc type in there.
yeah, that's how
you're doing
yeah,
it
that's
now.
how DocuTrack works as well. I mean, we're going to be probably eventually off of DocuTrack in the next year and a half or so, just because of an LOS change.
Mm-hmm.
But it's whatever it comes down to. We're gonna look at other document systems unless the one that we come with has a grand slam document system built in.
The odds of getting an LOS that has a perfect
that's what I was going to say.
document
that's not very,
is about as good as us saying we're in the LOS business.
exactly. Most LOSs are getting out of the document systems and
Often
attaching to
third party.
other ones that say, "Hey, we work with them." So
Yeah, the nice when you tie the documents to the LOS, and we've done a lot of accounting AP type applications, and you ever change your LOS, now you've got all these images locked up with this other product. So we actually had an account that changed their line of business application, but because everything was front ended by our technology, they didn't even know that they moved to a different. They moved to Oracle on the back end. The users didn't know, didn't care.
Yeah.
Whatever, so there is some value in keeping your documents separate
no, we found
from
that
the LOS
yeah.
repository.
It's nice being able to be in the loan and data track and just clicking on a button and having it go right to that loan's information. But I think I would give that up for
No, we will still give you that.
away. Yeah, I mean, I know it can be done on that, but it's just I would give up that functionality to be able to just be that much more fluid with DocuTrack and just
Okay.
it's not a horrible system. It's not a bad system even. It could just be better.
We have accounts that actually live in their line of business system and will access OnBase all the time. Just hit the hotkey, documents coming in, and they don't even know
Yeah.
that the back end exists. They just think it's part of their core
Yeah.
functionality.
Well, that's
So-
good. So I think with our current setup, and if we go to this perfect system configuration, I think we should be prepared for the increase in volume. Do you have concerns about that with our number
No.
of licenses and servers, or?
If I remember correctly, you said you're at 40%, you're gonna go to 100, that's not gonna cover it. I think,
But we're not slow now unless
Okay.
it's broken, right? When
Okay.
it's not broken, we're fine.
okay,
So-
I think we need to calculate your peak
Well, here's how I can do this.
days.
Each server with color images,
Uh-huh.
I think, is doing 10 pages per second.
Per
In,
minute,
Per minute.
per second or per minute?
per
per
minute. Per minute. So 10 pages per minute. Let's say that's low or high, but it's easy math. So you have 4, so you can do 40 pages per minute. I always figure 50 minutes in an hour. I don't know why, but we can figure 60. But I figure 50 to be conservative. That means you can do 2,000, or is it 200? 2,000 pages per hour. If a loan is 500 pages, is that too high?
No.
No.
That's
I
about
mean, but
right.
that's over the life of a loan.
Yeah, you guys receive small
Correspondent
chunks,
ones are
right?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just in loan language, that means we can do 4 per hour
Loans.
loans with 4. So, that's 4 per hour every hour. But if you had 40 loans hit in 1 hour, it's 10 hours before that last one comes through. So the question is, Steve, can you make that 10 go to 20? If that top number of 10 pages per minute went to 20, we just doubled everything. And some of this would help that. Some of this architecture would help that. So it's the peak that we have to design for, right, Rich?
Yeah.
Not the yearly volume or...
Well, the trouble is we haven't yet got a good handle on what the system can really do, just because it's up and down, or
Yeah.
we're making a configuration
We get those
change.
files that plug it up. for
Yeah,
a
I mean,
while, yeah.
I really feel like we haven't had and it's even been a year, but we just haven't had a true test of how, because right now it's performing
Pretty good.
great.
And I can see there are times at peak
Incredible
times.
volume.
Yeah, we're getting like 300 documents in every 15 minutes. And now some of it's through
Right.
Ephesoft, some of it's through DocuSource, and some of it's straight in, not even uploads. But I mean, we're seeing 300 documents come in, and I'll see our queue at 300 documents for 2 hours, and it doesn't get caught up.
Good.
And so like I said, I don't know how much of that is coming from Ephesoft, but we seem to be,
We get about 120 uploads in an 8-hour period right now. So
yeah, because we're not getting them in at 500 pages.
Yeah.
We're probably getting them in between 10 and 20
Because
pages.
they're
well, we're
getting
getting the
in
correspondence
files,
are
not
500
whole
pages.
Oh, are they?
Those are ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah, those are full close.
Yeah, that's what was creaming you guys, is what I remember.
Yeah.
Is those big ones.
Is that the one we're
Yeah.
pulling off to the side,
No, we're doing those. We're pulling off sideways,
sideways, and
and they have
Huge.
a layer that
Yeah.
Ephesoft can't read.
The encryption.
Yeah.
so that leads us to
Before
The
you go
report-
to the next one,
the report module would help them analyze all this, though, wouldn't it?
analyze, yes, but whether the 4 licenses enough or not, I don't want to say yes or no. We need to calculate it. We need to sit down. And you're saying the system is performing well now, but we don't know if we are at the 50% utilization, 60 or 80. We just don't know where we are. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys know. So
Right.
we need to calculate it, I think.
But what will the calculation tell us? It'll tell us Ephesoft can currently handle. Will we be able to tell how many pages per minute it can handle? Or?
Yeah, we can calculate that. So we can look at in 1 hour how many batches you process. We look at the page numbers of those, right? And then from then we can say, okay, when we go to 100% volume, we are at the 40. Let's calculate if how many seconds it's gonna take. Is it gonna be, we're gonna wait 5 minutes for every loan to show up, or it's gonna be 50 minutes. Then we can decide. Or we will do page per minute calculation. we'll find the page per minute calculation right now. What number we have, and if that page per minute gonna be enough when you go to 100%.
Can someone help me do that or figure out how to
Well,
do that?
can we do that without the reports module? This calculation?
Yeah, we have to do it manually. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we can do it like one, so we can meet up next week if you like. We can do manual stuff, but with the reporting, it's automated. You can always measure up. Where am I at? But next week.
With the reporting module, we can actually look at what it was a week ago, because the statistics are still there.
It takes out the validation process, right? This is how long it takes Ephesoft to ingest, read, and make a document available to the operator,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah, we have that. That should be there too in the reports. We have several reports there.
I have a quick question. Where we have these files that are coming through that are significantly large, the correspondence?
I'm not sure if this is correct in this case.
Okay, I was just
They
wondering.
might be receiving piecemeals.
We get 500 pages
Okay,
now a
you do.
lot, yeah.
Okay, sorry, go on.
I gotta,
Best
I gotta
practices
jump out. I
in
gotta
your
get
world.
talking and stuff. I got lunch.
Appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you. Nice seeing you again.
Build us a good infrastructure.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Take good notes on the email because I'm tired of having to do all the rules that we do for email, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to getting everybody over on OCR so we can control the emails a lot better because it's rough right now. Yeah, I'm almost the only one that can do it on my side because it gets so confusing.
Will it help when they all go to the new mailbox?
Yeah, it'll help when everyone's on OCR.
Okay. Which will happen after the infrastructure
Yeah.
change.
Nice move, by the way.
So my question was, is there any benefit to take big files and send them to one Ephesoft server so that we're not plugging up the multitudes of the smaller files coming through? Does that make any sense?
Yeah. So, okay, let me rephrase your question. Can I prioritize the small batches so they process faster on the other server? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that it's a different client, but sometimes the cores will all get busy on these big files, and then all of a sudden you have this huge backlog of the smaller stuff that's not coming in.
Yes.
And it appears from the outside that nothing's happening.
First in, first out.
Yeah.
Any thoughts around that? If it's not appropriate here today, I'm
No,
just
no,
throwing it out because I know you're having
anything is
problems.
appropriate. We don't have the technology right now to dedicate some batches to certain server because we built them as equal, so you can just put more same batches and then and if you're getting 20 pages per minute for a month, when you just add 3 more, that becomes 60. That's how we designed it. So we don't have that exactly, but we can do prioritization. So when the batch comes in, another client is doing that actually. They look at the content of the batch. If there are less than 50 images in it, they raise the priority number for that batch. So each of the servers will look at the entire pool of jobs, and it's going to pick up the higher priority ones first. So if there are
That'll just mean the big ones never get work.
Could be.
or
Yeah.
last, yeah.
Okay, so I think this is a good agenda.
Yeah, just
Which one are we on?
And let's just jump to number 3. I think we talked about 1 and 2. That's probably something I need to do on my own, but the TIFF, I guess I just want to clarify that it's a Adobe thing. So when the files get diverted before they go to Ephesoft, because they might be rotated sideways, we'll rotate them and save as a TIFF image. When those end up in Ephesoft, the quality's not good. Is that something in my TIFF conversion settings, or Ephesoft converts a PDF to a TIFF and it looks nice? I convert a PDF to a TIFF and it